Have you ever heard of neurofeedback? Me neither. So, let's learn about it. Okay. Neurofeedback. So the first thing to know is that neurofeedback is still being studied. I can't find enough information to conclusively say whether it's effective or safe, but we can still talk about its process and its pretty interesting medical implications. So for one, how does it work? Well, first thing that happens is you have a patient or a participant, if you're participating in an experiment, and you get hooked up to something called an electroencephalogram, an EEG. Basically what this thing does is, you might be familiar with the sleep study, in that it monitors and records brain activity. So if you are sleeping, it's going to be like, oh, your brain is sleeping. It's doing brain sleepy things. And if you're, I don't know, playing a video game, it's going to be like, oh, you've got these enjoyable video game things. And if you are doing something really difficult, it's going to be like, oh, your brain's doing difficult things. Anyways, I digress. The second thing that happens is that after all this information is recorded and analyzed by a supercomputer thingy, a researcher with a monocle and a top hat looks at this information and typically identifies a weakness. So for example, if your neural networks related to your brain focusing on something, or acting confident, or performing emotional regulation, if those parts of the brain are, in the researcher's eyes, weak, then they might suggest that you undergo neurofeedback therapy. So the next thing that happens is, based on whatever they decide, in this case I drew a little artsy dude doing artsy things, is the patient is provided stimuli for whatever part of the brain. So in the case when it comes to focusing, right, you will undergo a task where you are forced to or asked to focus. And then the electroencephalogram, or I should just say EEG at this point, reads those brainwaves and is like, oh, this is what it looks like when your brain is doing focusing things. So then what happens is you do whatever activity it is. You get those brain activity wave thingamabobs fed back to you. It's feedback for your brain, neurofeedback. And then there's a positive reward system that's triggered. So essentially what it's training your brain to do is, well, do whatever the task is, whether it's focusing or emotionally regulating or being lazy. It could be anything. The reason why this works, based on a really, really neat thing about brains that I just got to learn about in my psychology class, called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity basically says, all right, cool, this is your brain, and it's got all these like neurons in it, right? That's how your brain works. If you use a specific neuron over and over and over again, your brain is going to physically strengthen those neurons. That way when you come back and do it again, that neuron or neural network operates quicker and more effectively. And then you get fed some positivity in the form of, I don't know, a chemical or sugar or whatever it is. And then your brain says, oh, we like doing this thing. That's how trial and error learning works, right? You do something, and then if it's successful, then your brain says, oh wait, it was successful. Let's reward it with some happy chemicals. So this is like artificial trial and error learning, is what this does. This is what neurofeedback does, right? So you do a little activity related to focusing, you get some positive feedback, and then your brain says, the next time this happens, your brain is like, oh wait, we should do this better, and better, and better. It does have some interesting and ethical implications about medical treatment, right? So it can also be used to train you to focus. It could train you to be emotionally reactive or store more memories related to fear and aggression. I'm just thinking of like parts of the brain that would be the amygdala. So I'm sure that's besides accurate. But what I'm trying to say here is that this is really ethically complicated, because a researcher could choose to focus on something related to this part of the brain or that part of the brain. It could be positive, it could be negative. Not to mention the fact that this is still being studied. We still don't fully understand how or why this works. But if you are part of an experiment or therapy related to neurofeedback, you are contributing to science and you are helping researchers learn more and more about how in the world this thing works. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist. In short, neuroplasticity is just really cool and good on our brains and evolution and whatever for making that happen. It's some amazing science. And to finish this off, you guys get to see my cat.